Okay, I'm going to get started. Welcome to another Micrographics webinar. Today's topic is Vault Duplicate Search, a Vault Professional feature. I'll be presenting the webinar today. My name is Carl van Rooyen. I'm an applications engineer with Micrographics. My email address here is carl@ngfx.co.za. So let's get started with our agenda. So on our agenda today, we are going to just cover a quick intro, and then we will move into what is duplicate search. From that, we'll have a look at how does duplicate search help the end user, basically the designer, as well as your CAD administrator or let's say design office manager. We'll look at configuration. How do we configure duplicate search? Then we will have a look at what duplicate search looks like from within the Vault client, and then what duplicate search looks like inside of Inventor and what functionality it will give you as a designer in Inventor. And we'll close off with a summary and Q&A session at the end. This webinar is being recorded. It will be put up on YouTube for further reference later on for other people who couldn't join today to watch as well. Feel free to post up any questions in the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat and answer those questions as I go along, and then we can also have Q&A at the end. So for our intro, for duplicate search, as a designer, as you're busy designing, you may have components in the design already, and you may wonder, well, is this part already in Vault? You may have copied it from somewhere else. You may have pulled it off of a server and you have it in your design, but now you want to know, well, does this actually already exist in Vault? And so you can do a Vault search, but if the file name is different or the material is different, and those search criteria won't really give you a good idea if you have a duplicate in Vault. The geometry might be the same, but it might have a different material, might have a different file name. So duplicate search will help us assist in finding duplicate geometry in that case. Duplicate search will also help you figure out, how many times is an actual file duplicated. So you may have designers that keep downloading a component off of a website and put it into their design, give it a different name, check it into Vault. And so you may want to run a search through Vault and see, well, this component, how many times do we actually have it duplicated in Vault? And also, where are those duplicate files? So this search will also help you locate where those duplicate files are, and essentially then where are they being used. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to do a find and replace, or as a designer, you may want to find and replace according to the geometry. So you identify your duplicate components in your assembly, and then you would want to replace those with that file that's already in Vault. So, those kind of the ideas behind where duplicate search would help, and the intro into why we would look at duplicate search. And what we're going to go to next is, what is duplicate search? So the next couple of slides, we're going to introduce how duplicate search works, how components qualify for duplicate search, and what qualifies a duplicate. So, the question, what is duplicate search? Well, it's a Vault Pro search based on shape or geometry. So it's a function that is enabled within Vault Pro that will index files, and essentially it indexes the geometric properties that we have listed here. It will look at the area, volume, and principal moments of a component. And all that information is indexed and compared across all files in Vault to give you a list of geometric duplicates. There are some criteria to qualify a file for the search, as well as what qualify what a duplicate is. So, the criteria here, the part has to be a solid. And in this case here, it needs to be a solid so that we can get that volume property from the file. The shape basically needs to be identical. There is a tolerance, but the tolerance is quite a small tolerance. So your shape needs to be very close, almost identical to be considered a duplicate. And your component or your part can contain multiple solids. So if your part A and part B, the area, volume, and principal moments match and they both have two solids in them, that would be a duplicate. So we are allowed to have multiple solids in those part files. So moving on to some of the other criteria, things that do not have an effect on duplicate search would be non-geometric properties. So as I mentioned in the introduction, you may search according to a material, appearance, or part number to try to find if that file already exists in Vault. However, the geometry may be the same, but those properties may be different. So when doing a duplicate search, these non-geometric properties do not affect the search. We'll see later on that with the material, we can look for matching materials. We can also filter out our results. However, for the initial indexing and listing of duplicate components, non-geometric properties like the material, appearance, part number, stock number, any of your R properties that are not linked to geometry, those do not have an effect on a duplicate. The orientation of a file, that's actually the third image there on the bottom right-hand side. The orientation has no effect. So part A might be the right way around, part B may have been rotated, so the axis is slightly different. That does not have an effect on the results. They would still be seen as duplicates. And also mirrored components, that middle image there, a right-hand or a left-hand version of a file, that has no effect. They would still be seen as duplicates. The idea here is that if you find a mirrored version, you may be able to use that, or you may be able to take that mirrored version of what you had and mirror it again to get an opposite hand. So those are the things that have no effect on a duplicate file. So that will not be considered as, or are not taken into consideration when looking for duplicates. And we have some criteria here that basically disqualify files from being duplicates. So we can see on the right-hand side there we have two objects that are geometrically identical. However, the one is made up of a single body, where the second one is made up of two bodies. And so those files, although geometrically they're the same, the body count differs, so those are not considered to be duplicate files. And then on the bottom right-hand side there, those two files look very similar. However, the one cylinder has a slightly larger diameter than the other, and that takes it out of that tolerance that I spoke about earlier. And so that is outside of that tolerance for the duplicate search. So those are basically the two criteria that would disqualify files from being duplicates, even if the geometry was, very close or identical, but the body count differs. So now that we have a better idea on kind of what duplicate search is, how it looks for duplicates, we need to look at how does it actually help us. How does duplicate search, making use of duplicate search, help a designer, help the design admin, and even potentially going downstream, help out purchasing, guys who do detailing, the guys that manage the ERP systems. And so by being able to find duplicates and use existing files that match geometry, you're able to reduce downstream work. You're no longer processing a new part number where the geometry is exactly the same. Because you're not producing or processing a new part number through the system, there's no need to process new drawings. You're basically just reusing an old set of part numbers and drawings, process that is related to manufacturing those files, all of that rework, all of that work that has already been done does not have to be redone because it's seen as a new part number within the design. It also helps you to clean up your designs in a way where basically you're looking at what files already exist in Vault, and so you can use those existing files, and this also reduces the number of files being added to Vault for every new design that is added into Vault, because you are able to reuse those designs. One aspect that I don't have noted here for cleaning up designs is when people have reused, let's say, a pack and go file, and there are content center components within that pack and go. Those components can end up being checked into the project workspace in Vault rather than using the existing content center files within Vault. So a duplicate design could look for those content center files where there's a duplicate in the content center library as well as in the actual project folder. And you could then do the replace to replace that natural Vault with the actual content center one. And so this also makes sure that your content center can be cleaned up as far as the loose content center files within projects can be cleaned up, and you're using the actual content center components with the correct part numbers and descriptions assigned to them. From an admin perspective, this allows you to also get a status of how many duplicates exist in Vault. We'll look at the duplicate search dashboard where we can get a percentage of duplicates, and we can get those values, the actual statistics of Vault and how many duplicates are within Vault. That can also be exported as a report from the dashboard, and that report can then be broken down. You can export it as a Excel spreadsheet, which allows for any processing of that report going forwards. So these are just a couple of ways in which the duplicate search can help out with the design process, and a lot of it is sort of on the management side, managing the Vault data, managing the size and the amount of work created going through Vault. So that will bring us to configuration. How do we configure Vault? How do we configure the duplicate search within Vault? And this is basically a three-step process. I will go through a demo here as well to show where these options are found. But basically, the indexing process of actually indexing those properties and that information for the duplicate search uses what we call the job server. So as an administrator, you would go into global settings and make sure that the job server is switched on. And with this, the job server uses the what we call job processor that runs on the end user's computer. Some companies dedicate a computer to run specifically the job processor, or the designers can run the job processor on their PC. And that is what's going to process the information for the duplicate search. So the job server and the job processor are what do the heavy lifting and do all the indexing of the properties and comparing of the properties. Then what we do is you would set up the duplicate search or index folder. These are the folders within Vault that you would want to compare to see what duplicates you actually have. So in my test Vault that I have, I'm doing the entire Vault. So we'll do a duplicate search across the entire Vault. But you could specify this to a specific folder. You may have a project going forward with the customer and you want to test out the duplicate search functionality. You can enable it purely for that folder or that project. And we can see that here on the second image on this slide. So there you will see under the Vault settings, you configure your duplicate search settings and you add in your folders. You can see here on the right-hand side, I have the projects folder, which is all of the work inside of Vault, as well as the content center folder added in for indexing. Okay, so demo time. I'm going to go into Vault, and my duplicate search is already set up in Vault. We can actually see the dashboard showing over here. But just want to go up to the Tools, Administration, and Global Settings. To be able to do this, you do need to be logged in as an administrator. And you'll see here under Integrations, you have the Job Server option. You would check that to enable that. Once that is done, you would go to Administration, Vault Settings. And under the Vault Settings, we have the specify folders for duplicate part search. You configure that, you're able to then enable the duplicate search, as well as add in or remove folders from the duplicate search. So you'll click plus. That will then take you to your Vault browser. You can browse through to a specific folder and add that folder into the duplicate search. I already have these in here, so I can cancel. Got that in. You can also remove a folder. So if you have a folder that you no longer wish to be indexed, you can select that folder and click the X to remove it. That also removes all of the indexing data. So to add that folder back in, that folder will have to be re-indexed and that job process rerun to get all that information for those duplicate files in that folder. Once it is done, your dashboard the job processor will index all the files within those folders that are added, and your dashboard is then populated. And so here we see the dashboard. So that is the setup for duplicate search, quite quick and easy. Depending on the size of the folders that you add, it may be quite quick. It may take some time to work through and index all those files. I indexed my vault here as 114 files, quite a small vault, but it took only a few seconds to really index this and have the information available. Okay, so once you are configured and you have Vault duplicate search up and running and your dashboard populated, we need to understand what information is being shown in that dashboard. So the top section of the dashboard, you will get the title and it will tell you when last that dashboard was updated. If you want to refresh the information, there is a refresh icon in the dashboard to refresh and show you the information or the latest information available. The top section has the overview. This shows you the duplicate ratio. So the duplicate ratio is the number of duplicate files divided by the overall number of files that are indexed in the vault. So in this case, this vault, we have a duplicate ratio of 27.4%. And to the right of that, it tells us that we have 31 duplicates of 15 unique shapes. So 15 of those 31 files are unique. The rest, the other 16, are duplicates. So that is the first section of the duplicate dashboard. That's the information that you can pull from there. And then below that on the dashboard, there is a index data overview. So this will actually show you the number of files that have been indexed. So in this case, all 113 of the 113 files in my selected folders were indexed. So there's no parts left to be indexed. And you get the number on the right-hand side, total part files in Vault 113. So you can see I'm indexing my entire Vault. You can, if I had to remove the content center file, that number, the total part files in the selected folders would drop drastically. And so we'd only be indexing a certain portion of the Vault. That percentage on the previous slide is a percentage of the indexed files or the files within the indexed folders. So that is not a percentage of the entire Vault. That'll only be a percentage of what actually has been indexed for the duplicate search. Okay, so here we can see a overview of the reports dashboard. And in this case, this is actually also the front page of the report. So from your duplicates dashboard, you can view and export a report of all the files that are duplicated. So as I said, the first page of the report shows you your dashboard. You will see the title that it is a duplicate report and the date that it was exported. And then on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see the number of pages for the report. The way the report is structured is that it will export what we call a group or a group of duplicates. So we see that there are 15 unique shapes. Each one of those unique shapes will be a group. So we'll have, in this case, we'll have 15 groups. When you go into that group, you'll be able to view the information specific to that group. So group 1 might be part A. And when you click group 1, it will show you part A and all the duplicates for that geometry. So we'll see this in a demo. We'll run a demo on this where we can view that report and see what that report looks like. That is basically how it would be broken down. So here we can see a duplicate group number 4. So we have 2 duplicates. And as I mentioned earlier with Content Center, this is the case for this group. You can see the file name. The file name in this case is actually identical. So we may have been able to identify that with a search for the file name or part number. That's not always the case. However, we see here that the path, the first one is in Content Center and the second one is in a folder, let's see, NGFX CAM, project called NGFX CAM. And so we may want to go and open up that specific folder or that part there and see where it's used. Open those assemblies and replace it with the file from Content Center. And we can actually see here as well, used in X files. So we can actually see which of those duplicates is used more. And as expected, the Content Center duplicate is used more times than the duplicate within that specific NGFX CAM folder. So this can also aid you in deciding which duplicates to keep and which duplicates to remove. So we'll do a quick demo of that from the duplicates dashboard, just to show you where you access that in Vault Pro. On the bottom left-hand side where you have your workspace switching, you can switch there on the home option. There is a duplicates dashboard available there. Top. Otherwise, you can choose duplicates dashboard right at the bottom, and that will take you to the dashboard. As I mentioned, you have the refresh option to refresh the information. And on the far right-hand side of the dashboard, there is a menu button here where you can view duplicates report. Now, this report is a standard format on the report. This is not customizable at the moment. I don't know if there are any plans to change that, but we do have the report options. We've got some standard controls at the top. And on the left-hand side, we have our report map. So we can see we're on the home page. We can go to group 1, and we're able to view duplicates in group 1. So we see here that we have 3 duplicates of the same geometry. And this is a aluminium extrusion. And there are 3 duplicates of that aluminium extrusion within this vault. So you are able to go through the report, find the different duplicates, and if you wish, you are able to export this to Excel, PDF, or Word. And this is quite a quick process. So we'll go here to Excel, 15 duplicates here. I'm going to export that to desktop. and that is pretty much exported already. And we can open up that duplicate file in Excel. So very similar layout here. We get our document map tab, which allows us to click on hyperlinks to take us to the different groups. Sheet 2 gives us our overview. And then from sheet 3 onwards, you have your groups. So you can now use this Excel spreadsheet to, let's say, automate tasks. Further down, you may create another sheet that searches and does specific things with this information. Yeah, draw up some custom graphs, get a better view of what's going on with your duplicates involved. So I can just keep clicking through these, and you would see the different duplicate components. Sheet 4 here, actually, there's a T3 lock ring. So just the same file I duplicated 3 times. So we can see that T3 is not used in anything. So we could go and delete that one from Vault. But we do see that the material here is also different. So you can get a lot of information from this report with regards to the duplicates that are within your Vault. Let's minimize this. Let's get back to Vault. I'm going to go ahead and close that report down and get back to the slides. So as far as the duplicate search goes within your Vault client, you really only have the dashboard from within the client. So at this point in time, the duplicate search is targeted towards aiding the designer within Inventor. You'll notice that if we go into projects inside of this Vault and go into the different folders, we go and find some files. We don't have any duplicate search options within side of the actual Vault client. The Vault client just shows us that dashboard. So we have the dashboard for all the duplicates. All the magic for the duplicate search happens within Inventor, as far as replacing components and finding the duplicates, your actual duplicate files. So you'll have a Find Duplicates icon on the Vault tab within Inventor. And what this would do is selecting that will allow you to select input geometry. So the input geometry could be a single part. You can select that component and search your Vault for any of those duplicated parts or any of its duplicates. This can also be done for an assembly. And when you select an assembly to search for the duplicates, it will basically index or search every single part that's in that assembly. And so you will get a list of what they term the master component. When you select that, it will then give you a list of duplicates. So whether you select part or assembly in your Find Duplicates, your input geometry filters, we can see here for the Find Duplicates, we've selected just skip this forward. In this case here, it's a part file, so we don't have any input geometry filters. But if I skip forwards here to a assembly, we get some input geometry filters. So when selecting an assembly, you are able to filter out specific components to check. So you'll see here, check content center parts. If you enable that, it will also include content center components in the duplicate search. You can also choose to check released parts in the selected assembly. So it will go through the released components and find duplicates for those released components. And then you have some result filters or advanced filters to be able to filter out your results for those duplicates. So I mentioned earlier, you're able to choose to only show duplicates which have the same material. We've got that option here to enable the same material. And then the advanced filters allow you to add properties to filter according to properties as well. That could be part numbers, appearance, descriptions, to be able to filter out duplicates according to geometry as well as properties. So your search results, once you've run that duplicate search, you will have the search results for either the part, or should I say, the results we're seeing here are the search results when running a duplicate search on a single part. So you'll see on the right-hand side, I have two different views. That is looking at a tile view, where you're basically seeing just the thumbnail and some limited information with regards to the duplicate. So in this case, T1 drive shaft was the master file that I chose when running the search. And then we have a single duplicate T2. So that is the duplicate file within Vault. Then we have a detailed view at the bottom, where we can actually see the master file, T1, and it will list the master file as well as any of the duplicates. But here we get a little bit more information with regards to the duplicates themselves. So here we have material, created by, used in as well. So we have various options that we can see. It gives us a bit more information with regards to that duplicate. There is a column here called same source, and this is marked as true. This is marked as true because the T2 drive shaft was actually created using a copy design of T1. So it was the same source CAD file that generated that file. So we can actually see, was it drawn independently or was it copied from an existing file in Vault? So we have that same source true option there. Once you have found a duplicate within Vault that you wish to use, there is a menu icon on the right-hand side of both of those views. And two things I'd like to highlight that you will see in that menu is the option to show details. If you click the show details option, it will actually bring up a details panel for that duplicate, and you are able to then view, as you would in the Vault client, the history, users, where used, change order, and bill of materials tabs. So those tabs are available for you to scroll through directly in Inventor to actually view the information relative to that duplicate that you selected. Now, the same for assembly. When you run that duplicate search in Vault on an assembly, on the right-hand side here, we can see that this file was suspension.iam. That was the assembly that was searched through. And each part in that assembly that has a duplicate is then listed below that. So we'll see there are 5 groups. So it found 5 components that have duplicates. And if you click on one of those duplicates, it will then change the information and it will show you the master file for that duplicate. So here on the right-hand side, we see eClip, and below it, it shows you the duplicates for that. So we have the duplicate options. And then from there, you have the same tile view and detail view options as we saw with the part file, as well as showing the details and the replace all option to be able to replace all the files in the assembly. So we're going to switch over to a demo here of that. So I'm going to go to my Inventor assembly. Actually want to grab a different assembly than this one. Just waiting for my open dialog box to come up. Okay, so I have an assembly here with 2 different pumps in. The one is basically a copy of the second one. So here we'll see T1 pump assembly. All of these components have a prefix of T1. The second assembly, they all have a prefix of T2. So now if I have to do a duplicate search here, I'll go to Vault, find duplicate, and the find duplicates window will open up and we can choose a component. So we can go directly into the model and select a single component. And we'll see here that we have the T1 lock ring. And our results filters, we can choose same material as input geometry. And we can also go to advanced filters. And as you would do a search inside of Vault, you're able to choose a property. So we can go ahead and choose a specific property, add a condition and a value. You would add that into the list and hit OK. That would add that as a filter. I'm going to run the search first, and then I'll run it again with the filter so we can see the different options. So I'm going to leave those options off and just click search. And it will then do a search through the duplicates, and I get 2 duplicates here, or 2 more versions of that file. So we can see there's T2 lockring.ipt, and we have T3 lockring.ipt. So we've got those 2 different options. Now I want to have a look at the one that's red. I want to see T3, what's different about T3. So we can go to the menu on the right-hand side. We've got some options where you can open, and that would open that file in Inventor for you to be able to interrogate it, look at it, see what it is. You can also go to Vault folder. That will open Vault, take you to the folder in Vault where that file resides. Here's the Show Details option I spoke about. Click on Show Details. It will bring up that details window. I can then say, okay, well, where is this file? What is it using? Where is it used? I see this is used nowhere at the moment. Were there any change orders on this file? And is there a bill of materials associated? So that gives me a bit more detail about that specific file. And there are 2 options here as well for placing it in. We can just use the place option to drop it in. That would be the same as using the standard assembly place or place from Vault option. We can also do a replace all. And so what this will do is our master is T1. It's going to find T1 and replace all the T1s with T3 lock ring. We're going to replace all. Tells me 0 of 1 occurrences were replaced in assembly. Okay, so 0 of 1. Why was that not replaced? Do that again. So this is the typical problem with doing things live. You test it the day before, it works. And then when you do it live, it decides not to work. Okay, let me go ahead and do it this way. So what I'm going to do here is start a new search. I'm going to grab that entire assembly. So let's grab that entire assembly and do a search. We'll see here that when running a search of the entire assembly, we have input geometry filters, check constant parts, check release parts, and we have our results filters as well. We can run a search here. There's the T1 lock ring, the master. Click on that, we'll find the duplicates. I'm going to go ahead here and say replace all. And I'm ending up with the same issue. Okay, I'm going to abandon this. That did work yesterday. I don't know what changed. That's fine. What we can also do is we'll go to the backup assembly here. Quickly run the same thing. Let's go to Vault, duplicate, lock ring, and replace. There we go. So now it's replaced 1 of 1 occurrences. replaced. I hit OK, and there I can see the replacement component inside of that assembly. So just to have a look here, that was a stainless steel component. So if I start the search again for that, and I say same material and search, we get no duplicates because the other two are mild steel. So there we're searching according to kind of wanting to match duplicates of the same material in the component. So you've got those search options inside of Inventor. I just want to have a look here. Let's go on duplicates in this main assembly. Just update the assembly first. And once again, I'm going to choose this lock ring here. Deselect the same materials input geometry, and under advanced filters, I'm going to go ahead and choose the material filter. Contains stainless. So I'm choosing a mild steel lock ring, and I'm going to search for duplicates that are made of stainless steel. And so we'll search, and there we get just the one duplicate. We'll see that T1 is not showing up as a duplicate. We're seeing the stainless steel version there. We just go ahead and see if this replace all works. No, okay, I'm going to have to see why that's not working. Okay, so that is your find and essentially you'll find duplicates where you're able to replace or place in into your assembly to replace those components. And that would bring us to the end of the demo for that. It is quite a quick process to find that information and replace it. And that brings us to our summary. So, in closing, what does duplicate search do? Basically, as it says, it allows you to search for duplicates in Vault, even if those duplicates, as far as geometry goes, have a different name or material, have different non-geometry properties. So it broadens the scope of what you can search for within Vault and allows you to get search results based on geometry. From an admin perspective, from a management perspective, it allows you to count and locate duplicates within Vault. How many duplicate files do you have as far as the geometry goes? And as I said, this is all geometrically based. So how many geometrically duplicate files do you have? Where are they in Vault? You've got the file location that comes up. And that is included in the report. So you can export that report into Excel, PDF format, and send it on to somebody who would then process that report. And from a designer's perspective, it allows you to find and replace geometry or find and replace parts based on the geometry. So you can easily replace components that are in your assembly that you may have downloaded off the internet and just put in there as placeholders. You can search to see, okay, did someone else already put that into Vault, and place that or replace that with a file from Vault that hopefully has the correct materials, part numbers, all the correct properties for downstream processing. And that will bring us to the end of the presentation. And so if there are any questions and answers or questions, now's the time. Don't see any that have come through on the chat. Johan, seeing that you're the only person here, if you do have a microphone, I will unmute you. You can feel free to ask some questions rather than having to type them. If you don't have any questions, then I would like to thank you for your attendance. And I'll keep this open for a little bit just to give you time to think. Let's see, we've got a question. All good. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your attendance then. We don't have any other questions. So I will then just close this off just with a thank you for attending. It was a Micrographics presentation. We have offices all over South Africa, so feel free if you want any more information. My email was on the first slide. We also have the info@mgfx.co.za email address as well. Your information or your request will be forwarded on to the correct person. And yeah, thank you for watching. And this will go up onto YouTube, so you can go review that on our YouTube channel, Micrographics YouTube channel. And yeah, thank you so much, and love you. Have a good day.